Every day, seemingly perfect people go about their seemingly perfect lives. But do we really know the truth about our friends, family, and neighbors? Behind closed doors, things aren't always quite what they appear. In fact, 1 in 200 people is a hoarder. Someone who can't stop collecting things, but can't bear to throw them away. And when it's taken to extremes, it ends up like this.
It's lumps of crap. You know, it must be weeks' supply. Piss and shit in this bucket.
In that room alone, there were 5,000 bikes or bike parts.
Hoarding is a medical condition, a symptom of OCD, obsessive-compulsive disorder. This is a film about the most extreme hoarders at the most extraordinary moments of their lives. What happens when their obsession takes over?
I can't do laundry. I can't get myself to take a shower. I'm fighting for my life.
When they face losing their precious possessions.
When you start going for my most important stuff, that really pisses me off.
They're not going to sell mouldy things. These are mouldy.
And when they're forced to choose between their hoard and their family.
In many other situations like this, a lot of people would have left already. That's why you'll find a lot of hoarders live on their own.
In Essex, England, on an ordinary street, in an ordinary suburb, one house stands out from the rest.
My mum actually walked past today and said that there was a really bad smell in there. So she was kind of wondering what his house smelled like.
And it's become known in the neighbourhood as the House of Squalor.
I worry about rats. It makes my garden look untidy on this side because it all piles up.
This is the home of 48-year-old William, hoarder extraordinaire.
Like most men, I'm not really that much good at running a home. This is where I tend to leave the more important, valuable things that are a bit easier to find, you know. Tubs and tin cans and pies. Lately I've only been sleeping downstairs in my chair here, a bit more relaxing.
William lives in a 2-bedroom house, and from the stairs to the attic, he's filled up every nook and cranny. He's even piled things up to the ceilings.
Well, I have a habit of buying new things like shelf units and bookcases, but I never get around to putting them together.
But William doesn't just collect storage units. He has a very specific form of hoarding called silligomania, a fetish for rubbish. And he has a particular fondness for trash that other people have thrown away.
He's got an addiction for rubbish. If you put anything out, he will take it. You know, you haven't really got to phone the council up to come and take any big items because William will take it home.
Although William isn't currently receiving therapy for his compulsions to hoard, he is on sickness benefits. And since he doesn't work, hoarding has become his full-time occupation.
There's always things to do in the life of a busy hoarder.
Do you enjoy hoarding?
Oh, I do enjoy it, I suppose. I don't think I've ever done anything that's helped me so much.
Why has it helped you?
It's something I've got the nerve to do that all the other guys don't.
So every night, under the cover of darkness, William heads out to work. As he rarely leaves the house by day, these excursions are William's only opportunity to gather goods. And he's even got a wish list.
Newspapers and magazines, clothes, general household goods, really. Get a bit of a buzz out of it.
How do you decide what to keep?
Anything I haven't already found before, you know, or some things interest me more than others, you know.
Didn't you want that one?
It was horse racing. Don't like horse racing.
After a successful exploration of his neighbourhood recycling bins, William raids the local shop's refuse for supplies.
William,
Sorry?
where are you off to now?
I'm back home.
What did you find in the bag?
I need some food.
For William, his loot forms the basis of his daily diet. And whatever food enters the house never leaves again, even if William doesn't eat it. But his love of rubbish has upset the neighbours.
I think it's bad for that amount of rubbish to be building up. You can imagine anybody that really wants to sell their property, living down a banjo like that, you'd never want to.
And 2 years ago, after complaints from the locals, William's council took action. They awarded him Britain's first anti-social behaviour order, or ASBO, for hoarding.
I wasn't too pleased about it. You know, when the police came in, were taking pictures of things like a few tin cans. It seemed strange that they should have to deal with that when there's so much really serious crime going on these days.
Armed with the ASBO, the council have been keeping a close eye on William. The ASBO prohibits him from accumulating waste on his property. But since he's broken it, William's about to face a hoarder's worst nightmare. His house will be raided and his beloved possessions dumped on the pavement in an enforced clear-out. Although William is an extreme case, he's just one of a third of OCD sufferers who hoard. It means there are tens of millions of hoarders worldwide, and they come from all walks of life. Staffordshire, in the heart of the English countryside. In one of its best-kept villages lives 65-year-old Roy, a retired accountant. He's married to 60-year-old Karen, a retired music teacher. They met at a recorder group and have been married for 31 years. But early on in their relationship, Karen noticed something different about Roy.
It was 1982 when I actually wrote to my GP because I was concerned about things accumulating.
Karen soon discovered that Roy was a hoarder. 21 years ago, along with their 3 children, they moved into their 9-bedroom, 3-bathroom house. And Roy started to fill it up.
There is a room behind there that we can't even reach the door of at the moment because there are wardrobes in the way.
Hoarders all collect different things, and Roy is unable to throw out even the simplest household item. He's also inherited the contents of 3 relatives' houses, and from broken toasters to incontinence pads, suitcases to mustard pots, he's intent on keeping the lot.
Papers, boxes, magazines, old clothes. Roy hasn't thrown away any clothes all our married life, I don't think.
It's the brown khaki pair, which are perfect apart from one tear. But that is the only problem with that particular pair of very good trousers. And clothes is to be worn and repaired when they need repairing.
Until they're worn out. When did you last discard
to
some
the rag and
clothes?
bone man.
We don't have rag and bone men these days.
Roy has filled up 11 rooms, and he's even gone as far as swamping his side of the couple's bedroom.
How do you feel about that?
Awful. Hate it. What can I do about it? There's nothing of mine there.
As a war baby, I was clearly taught that everything had a value. You know, even the potato peelings had to go in the pig food bin in those days, coupled with the fact that my father was unemployed, so money was never plentiful. So I was brought up to value everything.
Most hoarders are only identified after the age of 50, when they're at their most extreme. Roy was officially diagnosed 5 years ago, and it's something he finds hard to accept.
I felt it almost a slander, an insult. I dispute that I do hoard. I don't go out of my way to collect anything like the proverbial bag lady. But yes, I am certainly slow at sorting and discarding.
Roy's refusal to admit that he hoards is a constant source of tension in his marriage.
It just makes me very sad, because this room is decorated and it could be a nice little room.
It is a nice little room.
It isn't a nice little room as it is, Roy. It's horrid. It's the same old story, isn't it, really?
The rest of the family has suffered too. As the eldest child, the couple's daughter Rachel has had to bear the brunt.
I would describe a lot of it as junk. Very rarely had friends come to my house, and Mum was always quite upset about people coming to the house.
Roy's hoarding is now the worst it's ever been. But he's about to be forced to change the habits of a lifetime.
I think there needs to be a concerted effort to try and remove things from the house.
Roy's family are taking action and have summoned him to a meeting to issue an ultimatum.
I've been very patient over
I
the
know
years.
you have. I realise that now.
There are times when my patience wears a bit thin, really.
Compulsive hoarding is a form of OCD. 78-year-old divorcee Lloyd lives in South Central Los Angeles and was diagnosed 3 years ago. His hoarding is so extreme that he slept outside his house for 20 years because he couldn't get through the front door.
There were bicycle parts floor to ceiling and wall to wall. There was really no room to move around in the home.
One bedroom, which was the larger of the two bedrooms, was actually the bike room. In that room alone, there were 5,000 bikes or bike parts. All sorts of wheels and seats and handlebars and pedals.
Having anything in quantity appeals to me. It's sort of like in Monopoly, it's nice having a lot of the paper money.
Lloyd's passion for bikes started when he was a psychology student at UCLA and worked part-time in a repair shop. But it wasn't until the late 70s that Lloyd started hoarding. It was triggered when he lost his job as a computer programmer. Penniless, Lloyd resorted to roaming the streets, looking for cans and bottles to recycle for cash. He soon started spotting bicycles which had been thrown away.
I was out on trash day looking at what was available, and I'd see bicycles by the curb ready to be picked up, and if I left them there, they'd just be treated as junk, and I could rescue them.
Lloyd was very isolated. The more that he collected, the less he could have people into his home. And once the isolation starts, you build relationships with stuff rather than people.
For a hoarder, losing their possessions is a traumatic experience. But by 2003, the bikes had taken over Lloyd's yard and his house. LA County officials had cleared him out twice. But each time, Lloyd had started collecting again. He was high on their blacklist.
His property had accumulated more stuff on it again. The departments were very frustrated. They didn't know what to do.
They had 18 charges against me. To me, it seemed ridiculous. It might be a law, it's a ridiculous law.
Lloyd faced a tough decision. Throw away his 5,000 bike parts or be sent to jail for a year.
The judge, to impress upon me that he could send me to jail for it, he did put me in jail for part of a day. He said, next time you come, bring your Reeboks because you'll need them in jail.
But in a last-ditch attempt to keep him out of prison, Lloyd's lawyers contacted Dorothy Breininger, who's made a career out of organising people.
We organize people's lives, whether it's a closet, a corporation, files, or hoarding cases.
She agreed to take Lloyd on and raised $50,000 from well-wishers to organise the ultimate clear-out.
In order to not go to jail, Lloyd had to get his collection of bicycles to 15.
Hi.
On October 13th, 2003, Dorothy and her team descended on Lloyd's house for the most ambitious clear-out of her career.
We probably had over 120 different people work the job. Over 1,500 man-hours, 600-700 garbage bags, 13 different dumpsters.
As well as the bikes, Lloyd had over 40 TVs, 50 stereos, and 10 years' worth of newspapers and mail.
They say you got to have it cleaned down to the ground, and I resented that. But I guess I knew I had too many bikes. To the extent that I was in trouble because I had them, getting rid of them was getting me out of trouble.
Finally, a whole month later, the last bicycle was disposed of, and the house was completely cleared. But if hoarders aren't supervised following a clear-out, the chances are they will start collecting again. So now, 3 years after Lloyd's last clean-up, it's the moment of truth. Dorothy's coming to check up on him, and if he's relapsed, then the authorities could threaten him with jail once again. Essex, and William's preparing for a battle with the local council, who are threatening to clear him out of his hoard of household rubbish. Unlike Lloyd, he hasn't consented, but armed with an ASBO, the council are cracking down on him. So for the first time in a year, William's tidying up.
Old food. What the council called food waste. Didn't smell very nice.
As a homeowner, William can't be evicted, but the council do have final say over what stays and what goes.
It feels rather invasive. It does annoy me at times, sort of being told what I can and can't have.
At a huge cost to the council, a 5-man team has been drafted in. This is the 5th time that they visited William.
Bill is a regular client of ours. And at the end of the day, it's the neighbours and the community around him who are suffering. You know, Bill's quite happy to live in squalor. Bill? Hi, fella, you all right?
What's about that, Tom?
You started putting stuff back here.
Although William is in good physical health, the team are concerned that his hoard is a health hazard.
You've got mice droppings there, but then you've got rat droppings there, Billy. Basically, I think we're at a stage here, Bill, to get it clean for you, that we've got to get all this out, mate. Being honest.
Today is the first time that the council are attempting a complete clear-out of William's hoard. But for a hoarder, possessions are precious, even if they look like junk to other people.
Billy, let them get them do it. They ain't running away, are they?
Quick salt crew.
Leave them do that, Bill. They're not going to throw it away.
What annoys me is you always seem to go for where all the important stuff is. That's what annoys me.
We've got to look at everything and make sure there's nothing in there. If there's nothing in there,
I don't mind throwing away some old newspapers and stuff like that. And
what else
food
have you thrown
waste.
away?
But when you start going for where my most important stuff is, that really pisses me off. You're just making the job 10 times more difficult now.
You got that pie. You got food waste down there. As far as I'm concerned, mate, this time it's got to be done. Top bomb. All right.
2 days later, and the council are still clearing out William's hoard. And it turns out that he's not just been collecting pies. Buried deep within his hoard lies a secret William's been trying to keep.
You can smell the human waste here. He's been chucking it in the garden. We always make sure the toilets are not flushing, but for some reason, William likes collecting it.
What's more, there have been complaints from William's neighbours that he's emptying buckets down their drains.
It's lumps of crap. The amount that he's chucking down, you know, it must be weeks' supply. Piss and shit in this bucket, you know?
I don't think I've ever caused that much problem for the neighbours. Just that because I don't really conform to the neighbours' way of life, they don't like me.
What was the way?
They've just found some bottles of urine. Why do you keep it in bottles?
Sometimes sort of stairs get a bit full up, you know, so it's a bit easier to use a bottle, you know.
But the biggest discovery is in the garden shed. William has been hoarding his own faeces and storing it in paint pots.
I didn't realise there was that amount of human waste in there. Bill does care. I think it'd be wrong to say that he doesn't, but he just cannot stop himself.
They have taken buckets away. Does that bother you that people see that?
Well, it's happened before, so...
Is it just stuff that you haven't been able to get to the loo?
Probably, yeah. It could have been in there perhaps a few years, 2 or 3 years, you know, or more.
I do feel for him because he's obviously sick. He's obviously got something the matter with him, and it's not his fault because he actually needs the help and he's not getting it.
William isn't currently under specialist psychiatric care. He's lived alone since his parents died. And although he did have a girlfriend in his 20s, he's been on his own since.
I have none of those things, you know, I don't have any family or friends, and to the world at large, I'm as nutty as a fruitcake.
What would you like to happen? What do you want?
Perhaps some therapy wouldn't go amiss.
After 100 man-hours spread over 4 days, the team uncovered 20 bottles of urine and 10 tubs, or 100 litres, of excrement. In total, they removed 12 tonnes of waste.
I'm a bit exhausted. I didn't get a lot of sleep when it was going on. It's nice to see it clear. I've improved. Maybe not completely cured, but I've improved, definitely.
William is now at a crossroads. He's just had his 5th clear-out, and it's been the fullest yet. So will he finally curb his hoarding, or will he relapse once again? Staffordshire, England, and her family is in crisis. Karen's husband Roy is a hoarder in denial, who refuses to let her clear their 9-bedroom house. It's filled to the brim with his possessions.
I still think it's a huge undertaking in timescale.
But I just need the encouragement and not the grumble.
An expression comes to mind. Oh, change the record.
Karen has reached breaking point and has called in her local vicar for help.
Inevitably, this situation will have affected their marriage because if you're aware of someone who does extreme hoarding, you live in a place which is just such a mess. I would suspect that Roy will always have the hoarding tendency within him.
John has experience of staging meetings known as interventions, more commonly used for alcoholics and drug addicts. Today, he's taken the bold move of holding one for hoarding. The couple's therapist, Trevor, will also be present. He specialises in anxiety disorders and has been following Roy and Karen for the past 3 years.
Part of the condition is not only that a person can't separate themselves from the hoarded possessions, but that everything they do, they have to do perfectly. And not only perfectly, but exceptionally slowly.
Their goal is for Roy to accept help in clearing the house. To try and shock him into action, the couple's daughter Rachel has also agreed to attend. They're holding the intervention in Karen's Haven, the only clear room in the house.
I feel helpless because Roy doesn't let me either help him or do the clearing myself.
Do you not let her help?
No, I wasn't aware of that.
You weren't aware?
That's lack of trust. You just don't trust me, Roy. After all these years of our marriage, you still don't trust me.
What Karen, I think, was saying was that the end point will be longer than your life expectancy.
Yes.
That's her opinion, yes.
That's my opinion as well.
Fine, that's your opinion too.
And mine.
How do you feel about the offer of assistance?
I hadn't got myself mentally adjusted to receive help.
Do you feel mentally adjusted now? Is it a possibility?
I don't think it is yet.
There does come to a point where you have to say, I can't do it anymore, please will someone help me?
I've got to discipline myself to avoid it getting any worse.
No, you've got to discipline yourself to accept the help.
Yes.
Roy has a decision to make. Accept his family's help, or force them to suffer for the rest of their lives. The first reported case of compulsive hoarding was in 1947, when the bodies of 2 brothers were discovered in New York City. Homer and Langley Collier died, trapped underneath their hoard, and 103 tons of rubbish was removed from their house. New York today. Just a few blocks away from the Collier's house lives 60-year-old Morin, an out-of-work actress.
Hello. Come on in. You have to squeeze a little bit, I'm afraid.
Although she's had 2 long-term relationships, Maureen's lived alone in her 1-bedroom rented apartment for the past 17 years. And she's crammed it full to the brim, with piles reaching 5 feet high.
To me, my place looks like a thrift shop where a bomb went off in it.
Hoarding affects both men and women equally, though the reasons behind it and what they save are different for each person. For Morin, clothes and bric-a-brac have a special place in her heart, and she spends her benefits of $1,200 a month on charity shop bargains.
I couldn't resist this chair, and you can't even see it. It's a beautiful old rocking chair. It's almost as if it's a person, and you're trying to save them from being destroyed on the street. Look at that beautiful lamp, and it's not like it's intricate work or anything, but it's just, look, somebody could use that. When I'm trying to think about throwing something out, it just feels so scary that I do not want to revisit it.
But Morin didn't always live like this. She was once a successful actress, appearing in over 100 plays and a dozen films. As a young girl, Morin was always the center of attention.
She was a cheerleader, she was in plays, she was bubbly, seemed like the happiest person alive.
But, like 85% of hoarders, Morin had a close relative who also collected.
Everybody in my family, we just had a big mess in our house, just really a big mess. Because I think my mother also had a problem with it.
Morin was one of 5 children. Her father, an alcoholic, left home when she was 5, although he would often come back to visit his family.
The sense of danger from growing up in an alcoholic family probably would be a very large factor. And in fact, the hoarding would be one way to kind of keep her life very narrow, almost like armor, a sense of safety around her.
And when Morin's mother died 6 years ago, her hoarding escalated.
I think, in a way, I built a fortress around myself. I guess as a way to hold on to my mother. I felt safe there. It was as though I was in a little cave.
Morin has reached her lowest point. She's seen 13 different therapists, but nothing's helped.
I feel despair, and because I so want to turn my life around.
The only option left for Morin is to confront her hoarding face on. Because she's so ashamed of her apartment, Morin doesn't let her friends and family visit. But now, for the first time in 17 years, she's decided to invite her cousin Mary over.
The thought of having my cousin Mary in here tomorrow is pretty daunting. I just have a dread of seeing her face when she walks in the door.
Hi, Mary, it's Morin. Guess what? It might horrify me that when I'm talking to her on the phone, this is what she's surrounded by.
I can't put myself together. I can't do laundry. I can't get myself to take a shower. I'm fighting for my life. I'm fighting for my life.
Morin's hoarding has meant she's become increasingly isolated from her loved ones. And it's the hoarders who are isolated who are the hardest to treat. Those who've never been married and live alone make up 55% of sufferers. 3 years ago, LA-based Lloyd had isolated himself from society, living with his bicycle hoard. Since he was cleared out, he's amassed over 400 more bike parts, but he now keeps them in the yard. And after 25 years of being single, he's remarried, although his new bride refuses to live with him amongst the clutter.
I wasn't feeling comfortable. And then I told him, you know what, if I really move here completely, we will get a divorce pretty soon. Yeah. But when I come here, and I try to be very sensible about his problem, and I said, well, why don't we throw this away? Probably after I leave, he picks it up. But I think one of the good things is that he's not lonely.
Today, Lloyd is expecting a visit from Dorothy, who organized his last bicycle clear-out. He knows he has to make a good impression, or she could throw away his latest range of bicycles.
Now, I don't notice it, but somebody coming in from outside might.
But Dorothy knows that hoarding is chronic, and sufferers are rarely completely cured.
I would be really, really surprised, pleasantly surprised, if it were clear.
It's been over 6 months since Dorothy visited Lloyd's, and he'd agreed to a 15-bike allowance.
I wouldn't say the news is so good here.
Oh, why?
Poof.
The only thing that's been added here probably are these 3 bikes.
From where?
From the yard.
Okay.
Although Lloyd is relapsed, he's no longer classified as an extreme hoarder. But Dorothy has to be satisfied that he isn't slipping back into bad habits.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being you're really dissatisfied with the status of your hoarding, and 10 meaning you think you've got it really in control.
5, possibly 6. I'm honestly not bringing much stuff home.
I can see that. Listen, I think you're doing pretty well here. I thought for sure coming in it was going to be just so incredibly disappointing. And I'm not as disappointed as I thought. You know, the patterns are really starting to come back. The minute you decide you want to take some steps forward, I'll take steps forward.
Lloyd will always be fighting a desire to hoard. But the fact that he receives specialist support means that he's become one of the few hoarding success stories.
If Lloyd and I and Carmen all stay in touch, he has more motivation, you know, to want to clean it up.
Okay. I'd like to see Dorothy proud of me, and she can feel that she's accomplished something in life by rescuing me from my clutter. It's sort of like teaching a person to fish rather than just giving him a fish.
In New York, Morin is also facing up to her hoarding and letting someone into her mess. Despite the shame she feels, she's invited a member of her family to visit her for the first time in 17 years.
How are you feeling about Mary coming round?
Not good at all. Not good at all. It's funny, I don't want anybody to know me, I guess, I realize.
I'll expect the apartment to be messy. How messy, I don't know. I've never been in it, so I just hope my reaction doesn't hurt her feelings.
Hi, Mare. Come on in. You're gonna have to squeeze a little bit.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, can you?
Yeah, just push my tummy in a little.
Okay. Hi.
Hi. So. It's cluttered. Just needs to be straightened out. I don't think it's horrifying or, you know, I still love you. It doesn't make any difference to me at all. So, hey, it's fine.
I sleep just in this section here, and
I guess I'd go for this way. But the thing is, this must add like so much stress to your life.
leaving it in the mess is not, I don't think, is stressful. I think what's stressful is trying to address it. That's stressful. I got it. I got it. Oh, that's the hazard of this place.
Yeah.
But you didn't do anything wrong.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Mia.
I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Take care. Bye. Oh, brother.
It makes me really sad. It makes me really sad. It took a lot for her to let me come over and see it. So I don't think any less of her at all. And I love her to death, I really do, but she really needs help.
Morin has made huge progress by letting her cousin in. But it's just the first leg of a long journey, and it may still be several years before she's able to get rid of all her things.
I think I've really been broken, and the mending might be, you know, it's kind of hard. But that was a big step, letting Mary in. Yeah.
Aren't you proud of yourself?
I am proud of myself. I am, actually. Thank you for pointing that out to me. Yes, I am. Oop. Oop. That's a pile I made today when I was looking for other stuff I'm going to have to rearrange.
It's a week after Roy's intervention. Faced with an ultimatum from his family, he's reluctantly agreed to let his daughter Rachel help him clear his hoard. Fearing the worst, Karen's decided to stay out of it and left the house for the day.
I think he thinks that Rachel's come today to help him, and I think Rachel has other ideas, and I think there could be a bit of conflict this afternoon, really.
Rachel has chosen to empty one of the least cluttered rooms in the house, her old bedroom. 8 years ago, Roy filled it with his dead aunt's things. And even though many of them are worthless, he refuses to bin them. But he has agreed to sort them to sell.
I'm hoping that in the next 24 hours
there is virtually nothing left that is going to stay. Throw.
What are they?
They are the packaging from Christmas puddings and syrup sponges and the like.
That's what I rather
Throw them in the bin.
What's the trouble with
Yeah,
this?
but Dad, you're wasting time.
I'm not wasting time, but not anywhere near. Well, why? Just leave them there. No, not where I'm clearing.
That can be thrown, surely.
Rachel, please,
Yeah, Dad,
one job at a
yeah. Stamps. By the trillion.
Put them on the floor. Oh, don't mix. Don't, be careful. Damage the paintings here.
Oh, it's going to be a long day.
You'd be
They're not going
You
to sell
would
mouldy
be
things.
surprised.
These are mouldy. Nobody
You'd be
is going to sell
surprised.
something that is an environmental health hazard. He just gets very defensive, I suppose. He really has got the most compartmentalised brain, and if you try and change his train of thought, he just can't cope with it at all.
After 8 hours of work, Roy's only made a dent in the room. So will he stick to the task and accept Rachel's help? Or, unable to conquer his demons, will he put his family's happiness on the line once again? In Staffordshire, England, 2 weeks after the intervention, the pennies finally dropped for Roy. After much thought, he's recognised the impact of his hoarding on others.
Having had my eyes opened, as it were, where I hadn't previously realised just how antisocial, perhaps, what had seemed quite normal to me had become.
Was it very hard?
Yes, because it was changing the habit of a lifetime, you might say.
Because of this breakthrough, Roy has taken the big step of allowing his daughter to clear her room. But with another 10 to empty, has his epiphany come too late for his wife, Karen?
This is what I'm talking about. What's all this on the floor? And this?
What I'm working through, isn't it?
Is it?
Yes.
I think bits of paper like this you could possibly entrust me to dispose of.
For Roy, like other hoarders, things have always taken precedence over his relationships. And although he accepted his daughter's help, he still won't allow Karen to clear the house.
This business of trust is the crux. I don't know if you're trusted.
No.
Just have to sit and tolerate it.
No, you don't have to.
I don't have any option.
You can,
except leaving.
You can see that we're getting better all the time.
Yes, I can see.
Well, then,
I think you'll find in many other situations like this, a lot of people would have left already.
that's not the point I'm making, though.
No. That's why I think you'll find a lot of hoarders live on their own, because they've driven everybody else out.
Although Roy has finally recognised that he hoards, only time will tell if he is able to accept Karen's help. And until the house is cleared, they won't be able to rebuild their marriage. Only 10% of hoarders ever come to the attention of the authorities, and they're unlikely to stop hoarding unless they receive expert help. It's been 8 weeks since William was cleared out by the council. He's already bringing other people's rubbish back in and remains unable to throw out any of his own. William's also become more isolated. He's only left his house once by day and has started hoarding his own waste again.
What's in that?
Something's gone off, I think.
Have you been using it for the loo?
Might have done.
It doesn't bother you keeping it?
Doesn't bother me, no.
William has relapsed once again. But having an emptier house has brought back memories of when he moved there, aged 10. And he started to realise that his hoarding may well be connected to his family past. William is his parents' only child, and although they'd both been married before, he doesn't know any of his half-siblings.
My father was something of an Alf Garnett sort of character, was something of a heavy drinker, was often violent towards both me and my mum. And I think that's probably had an effect on me.
When his father died, William's relationship with his mother deteriorated, and his hoarding started in earnest.
She sort of would go on about her first son from her first marriage, and now she should never have left him. So I suppose you could say that she filled me up with all her rubbish, so I've ended up filling her house up with rubbish.
For 48-year-old William, things have replaced people. And as long as he lives on his own, hoarding will always be his way of life.
I'm probably not in what most people would call a good position, being at my age. Which might be a good idea perhaps to think about maybe getting back to work. That would be nice, I suppose. Or perhaps even find myself a partner. And perhaps some friends.